Hello, White Sox fans, and welcome to another edition of the FutureSox podcast. My name is Ian Eskridge. Joining me over here is James Fox. How are you, James? Oh, you're muted.
Am I still? How's
No,
it
you're
going?
good now.
Okay, I thought I hit the button on time, but apparently not.
All good. So tonight we have an awesome guest, one that I'm super stoked about talking to, as it is Arizona Fall League time of the year. We have Prospect One and in this league pod, Chris Welsh joining us. Let's go ahead and bring him in. How you doing, Welsh?
What's up, boys? I'm doing fantastic. Little nasally, but Arizona Fall League time. So this is it's my time to shine. It's my favorite time of the year.
Yeah, I kind of got I had a lot of envy watching you guys out at the home run derby. All the tweets that you guys were putting up last year at the AFL. I was like, oh man, I wish I could have been there.
Yeah, so, I forgot. That was a nice disaster to get away from the, reporting and doing the videos and all the fun stuff. And we were just having madness trying to catch baseballs out there. It was a good time.
All right, well, let's go ahead and start. Let's just, for people who don't know what it is that you do, let's just go ahead and throw that out there so people have a background.
Yeah, so I've been in this space for a long time. I center around fantasy sports. I actually work for Fantasy Pros. If people are familiar with Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros, I do the kind of the main coverage of baseball on that channel. I also do football, but for 10 years, I have started up in this league, which transpired into Prospect One. That's my Prospect podcast. That kind of centers around the Arizona Fall League. That's why I'm here. I've been covering prospects in a real-world sense and obviously for fantasy baseball. But I live out here in Arizona, so Arizona Fall League, complex, spring training, it's kind of my home place. I live very close to Camelback Ranch, so the White Sox / Dodgers are kind of, another home away from home, a team away from home, if you will, because I'm within a 15-minute drive, so I do a lot of coverage of that. So rookie, AFL, you can find all my stuff at Is It The Welsh, and I got a Patreon at inthisleague.com.
Well, awesome. So I know that you are obviously a huge fan of the AFL. You just want to give us like some general thoughts on the AFL, why you love the AFL so much, and kind of things like that that would kind of give people like a little bit more reason to watch other than just like honing in on a couple of prospects here and there.
Yeah, well, I think it's the most unique thing in professional sports out there. There's really not anything like this in any other sport. I mean, you have, like summer league, but it's still the players on the same team. This ended up being, it's a fictional league, I suppose, if you want to call it that, because it's exhibition of style, but it's also, they're tracking stats. But you take 5 organizations, I'm sorry, with 6 full teams to make one team. So it's like the Dodgers and White Sox are teammates paired with 3 other teams. I think that in its nature is amazingly unique. Ideally, it's some of the game's top prospects. They did a really good job about this year. It was very top heavy. Last year, kind of lacked a little bit. Maybe there's a little bit more depth as far as the talent, but it's very top heavy with the game's top prospects. And, in Origins past, this has been known as the finishing school. So you see a player come to the Arizona Fall League, it's usually that this guy is close to the majors. They want to up the innings, or this player is within a year of making their debut. But you have other unique things that happen. 17-year-old Leo DeVries from the Padres is out here. It's the first 17-year-old, I think, since 2014, if I remember correctly. Jeff McNeil, I just saw 3 days ago, who's playing in the NLCS. They beat the Dodgers today. He was here 3 days ago playing in here. We've had Kyle Schwarber came out here for the Cubs 5 years ago or so. It's unique. In the last 3 days, Will Clark was out here working with Bryce Eldridge. Jim Thome was sitting in the stands of Peoria today. The All-American Rejects were on Friday night, I believe, watching Peoria. It is a unique party style of baseball that you have access to these guys, these players you're going to see in the majors very soon. And for me, I'm selfish because I'm here. I live 4 minutes away from the Surprise Stadium, so I can go at any time, and I can experience this for 6 weeks, and it is a great testament to prospects in baseball. And like I said, it is very unique in its nature of sports in general. So that would be kind of a selling card of why I love it. And by the way, you come out here, you can sit wherever you want, sit up front. You guys see my videos. Looks like I'm on the field. It's a very unique atmosphere.
Yeah, we live vicariously through those tweets, being able to see them so close.
Well, I think one of the most interesting parts too is just that it's 30 clubs, right? Like spring training's cool, but half of spring training's in Florida. So just like being able to see everybody is awesome. You kind of talked about just the star power at this one. Who are some of the guys you are most excited to see or have seen already?
Well, Jack Caglione was one of the big names. I got to be honest, there's a handful of guys that are big that I've seen a lot. I have seen Jack quite a few times. People are very excited about Leo DeVries. I've watched him. Ethan Salas, talked to him before he made his pro debut. So I've been around a lot of those players. But, for me, getting to see Xavier Isaac, that's a really, really big one. I'm very excited about him as a first baseman. Trey Morgan is someone I watched in college, and now he is transitioning, playing the outfield out here. And how about this? This was one that we didn't get. Andrew Painter was not on the initial roster, and then I'm out day one. I think it was Glendale, actually, in day one. And then it's announced that Andrew Painter is coming to the AFL to pitch. And then maybe it was a different park, but then it was in Mesa, the day one. Day two, I'm in Glendale. I'm talking to Andrew Painter. And I see Andrew Painter there. And you get to see him pitch. Guy hasn't pitched in feels like 2 years almost. And he's making his debut. And that's a guy that I can't see because I could watch videos and stuff, but I can't see in person. So, Drew Gilbert, Jet Williams, those are guys that have really stood out as far as the players that I haven't seen before. But, people come here. The stars that the AFL is trying to promote, Jack Caglione. I just talked about this on my show, Prospect One, that a player is big to the AFL when I'm sitting in Surprise and there's no Arizona Fall League personnel around. And then Jack Caglione's about to come up and then they all rush. You got the girl with the camera and you got this person over here and they're ready to just get any shot that they can go and promote. And they'll handpick a couple of those players. Ethan Salas, Bryce Eldridge, and Jack Caglione. So there's some, like I said, some really, really big names, especially if you care. I rank prospects, but if you care like what Baseball America or Pipeline has to say, Caglione, Salas, DeVries, Eldridge, Colt Emerson, these are some really big prospects out here.
Yeah, Colt Emerson killed us in our first the Desert Dogs first game. He went 5 for 5. Yeah, you were sitting behind home plate.
It was incredible. 4 doubles. I talked about this on Prospect One. He has 6 doubles in the first week. The record in the AFL, 6-week long, is 14 by Kendry Morales in 2005. I mean, he's almost halfway there through 1 week just as doubles, and he is an incredible talent too. But I've seen him for quite some time. But there's a big discussion in the AFL. This is really important to talk about as well. That people get really worked up about stats, positively or negatively. Listen, it's a hitter-friendly environment. Pitching stinks. The pitching always stinks out here. This year, really stinks. There's only a few good pitchers. So the offensive side gets inflated. Xavier Isaac just talked about this today. He's like, why are more guys not coming out here? This is a great hitter-friendly environment. So you've got to be careful about the stats that you really hold on to. And you go, oh my God, this guy's going to break out. But what you look for are outlier things. And Colt Emerson is that. It's a guy that lets the ball, you watch him, he lets the ball travel. He's not fooled by a fastball to breaking pitch change. And he's easily able to just push it opposite field. He's got big home run power. He's showing off doubles power. He's not getting fooled with big strikeouts. Those are the things that you're ultimately looking for, not necessarily these big, massive counting stats of what these guys do out here. You want the intangibles, and Colt Emerson is like the epitome of the intangibles.
So the first one was obviously rough for the representatives for the White Sox on the pitching side, but one of the more higher upside arms there is Grant Taylor. Had you seen him in Arizona prior, and then just what are your thoughts on him being out there?
Yeah, I saw him. So he's on the Bridge League. So there's a lot going on in Arizona. There was rookie ball that transitioned into this new league they called the Bridge League, which you guys have probably talked about. It's not a sanctioned league that then turns into Instructs, which essentially Bridge League is Instructs, where they can do whatever they want. And during maybe the end of instructs to Bridge, they put Grant Taylor on a Tuesday schedule. They prepped him for AFL. So he just pitches on Tuesdays. That's what he's going to do. So I saw him pitch on Tuesday in instructs before the AFL started up. He looked phenomenal. And I've seen, some decent pitcher. I saw Hagen Smith, we can talk about later, pitch in one of his first Bridge League ones. And Grant was out there just throwing fastballs, killing guys with breaking pitches, looked great, looked phenomenal. But he was going against like a lower level of competition. I believe it was the Brewers that he played. They got some good guys like Braylon Payne and a few other, top picks. So in this start, I actually talked to Grant Taylor the next day after that start because his first inning was phenomenal. He had a couple good strikeouts. He had this great appearance against Ethan Salas where, he hit Salas with a ball. I think it was a fastball to start or a breaking pitch to start. And then he went 2 high fastballs on Salas, ate him up. Salas chased both of them. And then he just dropped a curve in right up top, strikeout. Ethan Salas walked off. It was a great sequence. And again, that's like what I care more about. I don't really care about like if a guy gives up a homer, gives up some runs out here, it's hitter friendly. You care about like, is the stuff there? That's the Painter thing. Painter stuff was there. Who cares if you gave up a couple runs? Same with Taylor. Taylor got beat up in the next inning. I'd point out that game was a 28-run game, and there were like 15 runs scored in the first 2 innings, but his first inning was super, super clean. And then, the mechanics got off. He wasn't getting the breaking pitches. Then he started throwing fastballs down, and guys were just bam, bam, Colt Emerson eating them up. So, yeah, it was a bad outing, but I actually was like, I felt pretty good about that because he's one of the top pitching prospects out here. And in my own personal ranks, I moved him up quite a bit because I really like this 3-pitch offering of what he can do from fastball, slider, curve. I like how he mixed it. I think he knows how he wants to mix it. He just needs to get the consistency and repetition. That's why he's here, though, because he missed so much time, and he's in the Bridge League going against 18-year-old, rookie ball players that are still out here in Bridge. Now he's going up against hitters. I suspect tomorrow is going to, and sorry if however people are listening to this, the Tuesday start, I think it's going to be quite a bit better. He was very confident, by the way, because I talked to him about that sequence, and he was very excited that I brought up that specific sequence. He was oozing with confidence still, regardless of that outing. So what that told me was he accomplished what he wanted to accomplish, and that makes you feel really good about Grant Taylor. Everyone should be very excited about him out here.
Well, I think guys like him don't usually pitch in the AFL, obviously, right? But he threw 19 innings, I think, and struck out 32 and walked 2. Coming back from Tommy John rehab, and then he hurt his lat, and the White Sox really took it easy on him. So, this is it's one of the only reasons why he's there, honestly.
It's there's always a handful of these guys. Last year, the big duo was Jackson Jobe and Ricky Tiedemann. That's a pretty big deal. Jackson Jobe just pitched the other day in the playoffs, #1 pitching prospect in baseball. Ricky Tiedemann was vying for that, and he pitched like it out here. You always get just a collective of 2 or 3 of those guys. Grant Taylor is that. Before Andrew Painter, Grant Taylor was the guy. He was the #1 pitcher out here in the AFL that we were all going to shine over. It just so happens that the #1 guy now is his teammate. And that Glendale team is a monster. That Glendale team, it's ridiculous, the team that they put out there, because it is, Connor Phillips on Wednesdays, Painter on Saturdays, Taylor on Tuesdays. And then, by the way, you got a couple major leaguers in Matt McLain and Strand. It's crazy the team they talked about, and obviously the shortstop for the White Sox we're going to talk about here. But yeah, guys like Taylor are here simply because of the missed time. That's what Jobe did. That's what Tiedemann did. If he had pitched 100 innings, Taylor's not here, like every other good pitching prospect. Taylor, Painter, it's because of all those missed innings. And he has a real opportunity with this hitter-heavy environment to shine. And I really do think the rest of the way through, you're going to see some big stuff from Taylor.
Yeah, I kind of felt like when I was watching the warm-up pitches for Taylor in his start, he was leaving everything high. And the first couple of pitches he threw, same thing, but then he settled down. And then he had, after his first half inning, he had like a 40-minute layover waiting for all those runs to score. And then when he came back out, it was more of the same. He was just missing, he lost his feel for everything. So I was not discouraged by it. Like that first inning was fantastic.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll move along. I guess in just keep it a high profile, guys. Colson Montgomery, who's been playing third base for the Desert Dogs. What have you seen out of him so far?
So He's an interesting story because he was here last year, and I made lots of excuses for him last year because there was one thing that was apparent. He didn't know what was coming. He didn't care what was coming. He was swinging. He swung at everything, and it looked bad. And there's a pitching conference where a lot of the, my guys, the fantasy baseball writers and stuff will come out here, and we'll all spend time. It's first pitch conference by Baseball HQ. And a lot of those guys came out, and we would look, and they're just like, man, he's really having some heavy swing through stuff. And it's like, yeah, well, I thought he was just out here to do that, to try to make some impactful contact. Little did I know that that was wrong, and it carried over into the season where he had 164 strikeouts, 214, 213. He looked awful. It was the AFL all over again. So I didn't think they would bring him back out here just simply because he had already spent time out here, and they did. And guess what? Because there are so many turnover guys, he's one of the most impressive players I've seen out here because I have a history of not just spring training, but AFL. He looks like a different player. And this isn't just because I'm on, your guys' show to talk super positively about him, but it's what I said after that first performance. He's not swinging through breaking pitches. There's some of these guys that you'll see that there's a book, and you can throw. Usually that book, by the way, is either like it's a high fastball thing. Nick Gonzalez had that years ago, or guys really eat up low breaking pitches. That's the common one, and that was Colson last year. Could not make any contact. Pitch recognition stunk. It's completely opposite. I don't think he has a strikeout so far in the AFL. He's driving counts. He's making really great decisions. Here's the only negative. Dude's been hit twice. He got hit in the first game in the shoulder, and then on Saturday he got hit on the wrist. I haven't heard any updates. I hope he's okay. I'll probably be out there tomorrow. But I'm thoroughly impressed with his decision-making, and that's the most important thing to me. Again, not the stats, but his strike. I mean, I guess I do care about the strikeouts because that was such a problem. But what he's doing in driving counts, not eating breaking balls, I think that is such a great positive sign for him moving forward. He's also stealing bases. He's got 2 stolen bases early on and 8 at-bats. These are great things. That should make everybody excited. He's getting versatility at third, so that helps him to get to the majors. Now you can play him in a couple different spots. The $20 million mistake of Moncada's gone. That might give Montgomery an opportunity to be day one with what they need to be putting out there, and that he's making better decisions. It's going to put him in a much better spot. So again, like legit from a lot of players I've seen, whether AFL or not, he looks like he's got the biggest change of what I've seen in the last 12-month span of any single player. Not all of them have I been able to focus on, but I'm very encouraged because he's got the skill set of what would look like I would talk in fantasy terms of an elite fantasy baseball player. There's big power. He can steal some bases. I don't think it would be unheard of that he's a 25-10 type of guy. It's always been what type of contact is he going to make? So that's what I'm hopeful for. And I'm really kind of encouraged that he gets to be on a team with some major leaguers. Hopefully some of that Matt McLain and Strand major league side. I think Sajazi's on that team as well. There's a lot of infielders with major league experience that you hope he's going to take some from. He looks very centered and focused, and I think you should be very encouraged with the decision-making he's making out here.
Who do you want to move to next there, James?
Well, yeah, I mean, just like anybody, I guess that's the rest of the team. So obviously, they sent quite a few relievers with Rule 5 decisions. The one that we kind of found interesting was Peyton Pallette, just because he doesn't have a Rule 5 decision. He threw 85 innings after they converted him to relief. So I didn't know if that was just kind of send him there to face top competition because they want to kind of fast track him to the big leagues. But I think he was the most interesting of those other pitchers that they sent.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is an experience thing with him. It's an interesting group. I didn't get to see him pitch in this one, but I've seen him in spring training. They had Adler and Dahlquist that are all out here. I know Adler did pitch one of the days I was there. I don't remember. I know Dahlquist pitched, but I wasn't watching it. So I missed Dahlquist and Pallade. I think Pallade is a get the experience because you'll have a lot. Look at Leo DeVries. Leo DeVries is 17 years old. He's out here to get more of that major league experience. I think this is to rub off on that great rotation, and he's just getting some extra innings. I will give you a guy that I think is pretty fun. It's Michael. I'm forgetting him. I want to say Michael Turner, right? The catcher.
Michael Turner, yeah.
Yeah, Michael Turner. I talked to Michael Turner. I talked him up the other day too, because first off, I think it was a homer in that first game that he absolutely crushed, but also his ability behind the plate is wildly impressive. I don't know if it was seen, if you guys are watching the stream, if you could see it, but he stabbed what was going to be a ball back to the backstop. More impressive than I've seen in a long time. And I don't like ooh and ah over catchers and like the frame job and the pop time. Like that doesn't, especially as like a guy that cares about fantasy, I don't. But man, there was this awful breaking pitch that hit the dirt about 57 feet in front, and it took a rocket back, and he just absolutely one-hand stabbed it. And he just made a couple of those really good decisions. And I talked to him after, and he didn't give me a lot. He was just like, oh, thanks. I wanted to get a big smile out of him and, start to unravel, like, let's talk about your defensive prowess. But dude's got some pop. I don't think he's got higher than major league average batting average, but he's got some pop. It's not super exciting, but I could see him as a number 2 catcher on a major league team for quite a few years. So I think he might be kind of an unheralded guy. DJ Gladley, he's kind of, fun. There's some tools in there and whatnot, but the guys that really jump out, I like Tim Elko too. Tim Elko is like a big dude, again, with big power. But I would say if we're not talking Montgomery and we're not talking about Grant Taylor, Michael Turner is like the sneaky guy that's out here.
Well, and I do think they sent him to like make up for some lost time. So I don't know if you know, Chris, like he was kind of in Birmingham for most of the year, but Edgar Caro was the priority there.
Yeah.
So, Turner was like the second catcher. He DH sometimes, but I mean, Caro was obviously the focus. And then once he went to Charlotte, Turner got to play more. But I just think they want him there catching their guys. But I do think they also see like a potential big league backup, and he's older, so it like kind of makes sense for him to be out there.
And look at him, he gets to catch Grant Taylor, every week. And if he's going to get the opportunity, I got to tell you, I didn't pay attention to who caught Andrew Painter, but like at the opportunity of catching guys maybe like Painter, because I think usually you will get teams, so you're probably going to get Disson catching him more, but then there's like Connor Phillips, that's a possibility. I think he might have caught Connor Phillips that one day that I caught him out there.
Yeah,
so I think that's great, getting to catch like a major league pitcher and then getting to catch in your organization. I just think Turner is like someone you should pay attention to, that, hey, maybe, I know you guys know this more than anybody, it's rough for you guys in the White Sox and this team, but like, is it the worst if you have Caro and Michael Turner as your catchers to start out the year? It's really not. Get them familiar, and Michael Turner might have some more of that veteran presence, that they can maybe establish with a guy like Garrett Crochet.
Just for a note, Phillies guy Disson caught Painter.
Yeah. So usually they try to lock those guys together.
Yeah, so Anthony Hoopy Tuionatoa out there again for a second year. So you probably, I think you caught one inning of him possibly in the first game, I think, if you were around for that.
I think he got beat up, if I remember correctly. I think he got hit up, because he was with the Rangers here last year. But Adler was the one that stood out, and I think Adler had a clean inning. But yeah, I know he got beat up, but I did not get a big major focus on it.
Yeah, I think up until like the 8th inning, Adler was the only clean inning in that first game that, with the 20 billion runs.
28 runs. It was great. I had to leave, and I left. It was like 24 runs in like the 6th or whenever it was that I let it. But that's the AFL. The night before, no runs, and there was a walk-off 1-0 win in the 9th inning in Mesa, and then the next morning it's 28 runs. That's the chaos of this league, and that's why take it for whatever you can with all of it, and hopefully you have people that are out there that can talk about more of the insights than it is like the statistics.
Yeah, we said it was going to be a pitcher's duel, didn't we, James?
Yeah, for sure. Never out there. So just like going away from the AFL a bit, like the Bridge League kind of fascinates me, just because like we had a lot of draft guests, and we knew about the changes to the Arizona Complex League. What were your initial takeaways of this Bridge League, and why can't they tell us what the scores were and keep stats and share them with people?
Well, first off, I hated it at first because it moved the rookie ball up a month, which then was taking away the draft players, because I want the draft players to go to rookie ball. And then also for really everybody else, when you have a month or even 3 weeks where you can see some of these draft guys putting up stats, you can have an idea of how they perform. But people did not get to see Slade Caldwell. They did not. I saw Hagen Smith pitch. You didn't get to see, I mean, I guess you got him when he went to A-ball, but you didn't get to see that. Braylon Payne was really interesting. So I didn't like that at all. From a weather standpoint in Arizona, it was actually a blessing because March or May, it's like still nice. And then it's 100,000 degrees every single day. Why they don't do it? I mean, because it's a stepchild of Instructs, you know, like in instructional league, they can do whatever they want. You talk about Edgar Quero, his brother, Jefferson Quero, is with the Brewers. He had been hurt. He'd been playing in the bridge in Instructs. And what they do in Instructs a lot, and this is what they did with Quero, they let him bat every single inning. He just started every single inning off. He's the leadoff or number 2 hitter. And then when he hits, he gets on base. He doesn't run, and he gets off. He gets off the field. And they can do that because it's not a sanctioned statistic game. In a sanctioned game, if you take a player out, then they're out. And you got to do... They do whatever the hell they want. I went to the Reds during Instructs, and you had Christian Encarnacion-Strand and Matt McLain hitting and playing in this game. Matt McLain gets out. Someone gets on base. They subbed him out so Matt McLain could go to second so he could run some more. Like, this is the stuff that they do. So that's why they do it, because it gives them freedom to roll innings. They don't want a pitcher to go too long. They want a guy to get 6 at-bats. Christian Encarnacion-Strand wasn't allowed to swing in Instructs. I know I'm turning this into Instructs. I apologize. But it's the same thing in the Bridge League. It's the same concept, except the only thing that the Bridge League didn't do was they didn't do a lot of this guy's going to bat first every single inning. They kept the inning, but they rolled innings. They wouldn't let guys go super deep. So it sucks for us because we want some televised. We want to go look at stats or anything like that, but it gives the team a lot more control. And I think ultimately it kind of turned into a draft league. It's interesting they called it the Bridge League because it ended up being filled with 11th and 12th and 13th round picks almost solely across every single team. I went to a Brewers starting one, and Braylon Payne, the first round pick, Brock Burke, I think, the Tennessee kid, he came and played, and then it was just boom, boom. You know, it was Prince Fielder's kid, all these drafted guys, and that's what the Bridge League came into. But that's what rookie ball used to be. So it's essentially rookie ball with ultimate control, and we don't like it. And I don't like it, by the way, because I don't know what the hell's going on. I have to just like show up and hope or have a source tell me this guy's pitching or whatever. So it was annoying, especially with another name. But unfortunately, baseball, I think they loved it, and it's going to probably be here for a while. So you're going to have to get people out there to get those insights.
Well, I know like farm directors wanted it because they like claimed that they were just like running out of pitching, basically, and the ACL season at the end was just brutal because they didn't have enough guys. But
Yeah, sure.
like if you're a club that goes very prep heavy, like you're not going to send your draft picks to low A. So you're basically just, guys like us, right? You're just not going to see those guys like until the next season. But and then it's probably still rookie ball.
But the problem you also have is like usually prep pitchers and even some college they don't pitch. Chase Dolander was a first round pick for the Rockies last year. He was here the entire year. He didn't pitch once. He just hung out. They get to, maybe learn about the organization. They get to learn their teammates. They get to see how things are done, and they just don't pitch at all. So I think that's part of, like, what you said is exactly it, but also, like, there's no other fix because at the end of the day, like, they still don't want a lot of these guys to pitch. I'll be honest with you. I was shocked how much the White Sox use Hagen Smith after his usage in college, and then how deep they were letting him go in some of the Bridge League games and then go to the majors. I have a dear friend of mine who's a hardcore Chicago White Sox fan who lives out there. He's kind of in the baseball world. And he was like, what are they doing with Hagen Smith right now? Baby him for next year. But every team is different. And that's, I think, part of the problem with the Bridge League stuff is some teams might have a glut of available arms. I mean, the White Sox, Christian Oper with your guys, the White Sox, he set up a house. He just was here all the time. I don't know why they never moved him. He just was here every single day. I'd watch him walk around, knew each other's faces. They had a glut of them. But teams like, the Brewers, or the Angels, I don't think they did. So that's ultimately what they end up doing.
Yeah, Ian, I know under Bannister, he said he doesn't like the deloading process. So Hagen Smith he just doesn't believe in totally shutting down. So obviously I think he He threw 3 starts in Winston, so what, 10 innings or 9 innings, something like that.
Yeah, I think he ended up coming up short on one of those outings, but yeah, it was something like three. I think it was like 2 2/3 or something like that, one inning or in one start. But
he threw 2 or 3 starts out here in the Bridge League as well. I caught the last one before he moved up, which was one of the best pitching performances I've seen at a rookie, and again, a rookie ball and lower levels and stuff. It was so stupid dominant. Like after I grabbed him and I was just like, that was insane. And he just kind of laughed, and he was starting to throw his changeup a little bit because he's been kind of like a primary 2-pitch pitcher. He was phenomenal, but I was shocked that they used him like 3 or 4 innings off of that. So you had the A-ball stuff, and then you had 2 or 3 starts in the Bridge League as well. So that's a pretty aggressive usage for a drafted college, or any arm really, that comes out of the draft.
Yeah, we got some, in A-ball, we got some run with some of the guys on the Kannapolis Cannonballers team. Was it Aaron Blanken from Tennessee?
Oh yeah,
Aaron
Combs. Yeah, there was quite a few of the reliever types all kind of went to affiliates, it seemed like.
Yeah, reliever types totally makes sense. Maybe just not your, top 10 future ace starting pitcher for that type of usage. Maybe taper it down a little bit.
So we might get back to Smith, but just like 2 questions I had, like from that draft class, obviously, like Caleb Bonemer's basically the type of guy I'm talking about. Like you don't get to see him except for guys like you and fans that like wander into Glendale. So him, and then even like Nick McLain was a college guy who didn't go to an affiliate either. You saw both of them. Just any insight on either of them?
I was really impressed physically with Caleb Bonemer. I wish I could tell you a bunch of like cool positives about McLain. I don't think that like is kind of a overachieving college bat. Like it wasn't anything great. Kind of reminds me of his brother Sean. The whole McLain family out there. Like Sean is out here in the Arizona Fall League. He's trying to get it going. I'm not sure. He is probably the least physically talented looking of the crew. There wasn't really any big, and I don't mean to be like super negative or anything like that, but I'm not sure that there's like a big major upside. But Bonemer was kind of a different story. Like physically looks like there's still some projection, like that this could be a real bulky, if they want to keep him in the middle infield. I could see him as a second baseman, but like I can see him playing third. I like the strength. I like the power. I think there's a really good swing in there. He, I think, is a dude. Like if we're dude factoring some of this stuff, I'm not sure I get super excited about a lot of especially the draft class that they brought out here. But Bonemer would be the guy that I think I think he could move through the system even a little bit more aggressively.
We had a question. Now, this is a guy who we hear things about, but we don't, obviously we haven't seen him yet. Javier Mogollon, little short second baseman guy who's seemingly got a lot of pop. What did you see from him? What do you think?
I saw him a lot. I actually love this guy. If you go on my Twitter at @IsItTheWelsh, I'm almost 100% positive I have a few videos of him, and I've seen him crush a few homers. He's a small guy, but I had this kind of spark to me because there's another small guy in the AFL in Jet Williams. And Jet Williams, 5'6", he was just out there with Jeff McNeil coming out here. He's got incredible bat speed. He almost hit a homer the other night. Flick of the wrist, opposite field, goes right up against the wall. He's got some good, speed overall. And I was thinking, it's not. We don't want to do one for one because I don't want expectations to be weird or anything like that. But like when you look at how do you say it, Mogollon?
Mogollon.
Mogollon? I think I was always saying it wrong. When you look at him, like he stands out because he is very, very small and he's not as thick, but you can see the body projection that's going to get there. Great bat speed, a really impressive bat. So much so that there were quite a few times that they would even hit him in the 3 spot in the Bridge League. He never hit low in the lineup. And I know you could hear that and be like, who cares? It actually does matter. I remember many years ago, there's a lot of people that were super anti-Luis Angel Acuna, whatever you think about him now in the majors, playing in the NLCS. And one thing I pointed out, I was like, listen, this guy's got bat speed for days. He's obviously got the mentality, the Acuna mentality. But I said, I also want to point one little thing out. The team thinks highly enough of him that they bat him 3 in that lineup. That is telling you, if you're in that top 3 of that order, they want to get you at bats, and they believe that you are going to be a difference maker in that lineup. And you saw that similarly with Javier. So I think from a projection standpoint, it's super tough because they list him at 5'8". I would say absolutely not. 5'5", 5'6". It's about Jet Williams-ish, and he's a little bit smaller. But the bat played better than most players that were out here for the White Sox. Adrian Heel is a kind of interesting guy that's out here. Better. At times, even George Wolkow out here. I mean, this was one of the best offensive players. I think I missed a video, hit a grand slam in one of the bridge leagues against a prominent pitcher, just consistently getting hits, pretty decent defender. I think he's sneaky. I think he's a guy we could see at some point, but I think it's really hard to project like how high this is going to end up going. But, you'll see a lot of listings of like, 50 hit tools and stuff like that. I believe it. It is the sneakiest power you will see from a player. I promise you that, because he is so small. There is real like 10 to 15 home run power. It's just that bat has to continue to progress.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised, just like on the surface, looking at the numbers, that he didn't play in Kannapolis at all, and he's been in Arizona this whole time. But because with Wolkow, it was so weird, like you said, like, the obvious flaws in George Wolkow's game, like all the strikeouts, right? But all the other stuff is so tantalizing. The fact that they sent him to low A as an 18-year-old, we were like stunned. And look, like the strikeouts happened, but he mostly held his own in low A as an 18-year-old with loud tools. What were your thoughts on just the fact that they, decided that he didn't need to be in Arizona anymore and they sent him to full season?
Well, you want to know so funny. So it was like opening day of Rookie League. And Ryan Burroughs, who I really like, Ryan Burroughs was out there. He'd been hurt, so they wanted him to get a little bit of time, and Wolkow. But they were in rookie ball last year, and I've seen George a lot. And George walks up, and I grab and talk to him, and I'm like, why are you back here? I'm like, you're a great rookie, but like, why are we back here? And he goes, they just want me to work through it. And I said, are you going to get out of here? And he goes, nope, they want me to stay the whole time in rookie ball. And then a week later, he's out. Ryan Burroughs was gone in like 3 days, and then he's gone, and they sent him out. And he did not think he was leaving rookie ball. His expectation is he was going to play the entire time. But obviously, this is like, it's like a man among children when you look at him. But like you mentioned, it's the strikeouts with kind of that classic thing we talked about. Like, low breaking pitches are a problem. And if you start throwing low breaking pitches, he has a hard time catching back up to high fastballs. And that was always his struggle. But if you throw him a mistake fastball, he destroys it. So I think they wanted to challenge him. And you saw some pretty good strikeouts were absurd. And that's going to have to consistently be, his fix. But you know what? Spencer Jones had that problem with the Yankees. Colson Montgomery has that problem. Strikeouts are not the be-all, end-all, especially when a young guy like this is getting challenged. I think it was massively encouraging. I think it was close to 35 extra base hits with that type of push. So then he came back for instructs. And I grabbed him and I said, George, remember? You didn't think you were going out there. And he was like, I know. He's like, I was still pretty surprised about it. He's like, but it went great. I feel great. I'm glad to be back here. Super positive guy, massive athlete, top 5 player in the last 5 years to root for being around. There's just, sometimes guys don't want to interact with people, sometimes this or that. Just one of the great guys, easygoing guy, doesn't let the game get ahead of him. He has 60 grade power, and he just has got to, if he fixes that pitch recognition and he starts to learn how to barrel not just on fastballs, he's going to be a menace. He really is. And again, like we're doing White Sox thing, we're talking all positive, and I'm like, oh, Javier Mogollon, this is the guy though. Like this, Colson Montgomery is doing the things now to get excited about with the same physical presence of Wolkow. And if Wolkow can do it, you got 2 dudes that could be like, I don't know if either one of them could be a 3 for a team, but you put Colson Montgomery and Wolkow at 4-5 long-term with like a really good hitter and some classic, leadoff type of guys. Those are the guys that do damage on that 4-5 spot. So I'm very encouraged. I think Wolkow is like probably he's the guy to get most excited about, even though Colson Montgomery is making those changes. I think the sky's the limit for him. And I think this is a critical year. Every year is critical, I suppose. But like, I want to see him cut those strikeouts down. And if he does, and even if it sacrifices power, I'm all in. I'll be all in if that's the case.
It's just one of the other guys I wanted to bring up. We don't know much about him. the White Sox got him from the Dodgers, and he's hurt, obviously. Alexander Albertus, did you see him when he was a Dodger prospect out there?
I did see him when he was a Dodger. I thought you were actually going to go with Jarrell Perez.
Well, we kind of saw him a little bit, but comment on him too. Yeah.
Yeah. Both of those guys, they played together in rookie ball. Jarrell Perez actually led Complex in homers that year. And Albertus was a super sneaky contact guy. He was one of those dudes. He was always getting on base. He was a guy that Perez was driving in a whole bunch. I think he has the feel of like a 15-15 type of guy, but I would not be shocked if he ends up being a number 2 hitter because he's done a really good job of minimizing strikeouts. I mean, 51 games in 2024, 35 strikeouts. In 45 games, over 120 at-bats, he struck out 19 times. I mean, he has 75 career strikeouts in, 419 at-bats. I mean, that is something he consistently shows. He doesn't get beat. He doesn't get beat at all. He has projection still, so you could grow into that body and you could become maybe more of a type of like physical regular. But when you're hitting at like really high contact levels with low strikeout rates, that's something to really, really get behind. He just has not put together any big counting stat type of year. So at the end of the day, he might be like a classic like number 8 hitter, but I think he's sneaky. You guys get this weird combination of like, Samuel Zavala was, I feel like the world was his oyster. Like he could be anything, and it really kind of failed. But then you pair some of those players with these like really high floor players, and Albertus is a really high floor player. I would be surprised if you didn't see him in the majors in like 3 years or something like that. Where could Jarrell Perez maybe never work out? Yeah. Could Zavala never work out? Yeah. Like we could go through the list. Like I could see a handful of players that maybe it just never works out and the team gives up on. I don't think Albertus is that guy. I was actually surprised that they moved him, and I thought he was super sneaky because he was one of the top batting champ guys out here in rookie ball with the Dodgers.
Yeah, I was actually. I think Jarrell Perez. I think he had like 10 home runs or something with the Dodgers affiliate, and then when he came over to the White Sox, I think he only ended up having 2 through like the last half of the season. I was actually kind of surprised.
He hit 11 in rookie ball in 2023, and that led everybody. And he's kind of a like smaller, stockier guy too. He's just got this really aggressive like uppercut swing that he just punched him out.
Yep. So James, do you want to move on to the overall prospect thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, maybe first go like Chris, just anybody else, I guess, that you've seen, Bridge, Instructs, White Sox guys that we didn't bring up that you're just like a fan of?
Well, if we're going to save Hagen Smith, we can do that for another thing. I'll save it if we're going to do that because I was not prepared for how much I ended up liking him. Jairo Iriarty, I know he ended up making a major league appearance. I really loved him over on the Padres side. I thought that was one of the sneakier trades. When the White Sox started this process, I remember being like, they're not doing this well. Like, you're trading all these guys, and the acquisitions are fine, but it was like, where are the studs? Where are the guys? But then, you get the macro perspective of all of it, and you look and you're like, man, it actually is really sneaky between getting guys like Kai Bush and Nick Nastrini, and then, you've stacked up all of these pitchers. Jairo Iriarty, Edgar Caro gets to end up being, your catcher that kind of is the front load of all this, that you just need to have some of these hitters start working out, or you can build around future drafts on that. I think they've done a really good job long term. If I could pick out a few, because Mogollon would have been one of them. I mean, Jarrell Perez, like we mentioned, I like the power potential. I was a kind of big Jacob Gonzalez guy coming out of college, and he's really struggled as far as like his batting average goes. I would love to see him sell that power away and sell out for average and take more of a contact approach. I think that would completely change his game, and I think that would change like the viewpoint as far as like how we view him long term. But I would say like Jairo Iriarty is the guy that kind of jumps out. Bridge League, White Sox, you guys had more major leaguers than you had like top prospects. I mean, I saw Benintendi, Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez, Moncada. I mean, every single one of your major leaguers were out here at some point. That you guys had kind of a turnstile. Ryan Burroughs would be the other one. I think Ryan Burroughs is just like this sneaky dude who falls under the cracks. I think he could be a 5-tool type of player. I think he can be a major leaguer. He's had some injuries that kind of stifled the beginning parts of the season. I really like his game, and they like to hit him at the top of the lineup. Ryan Burroughs would be like a player that we haven't talked about that's kind of like a little favorite of mine.
Yeah, I mean, he had some good stuff, especially in the playoffs for the Cannonballers. He had some pretty big hits. He had a big 3-run home run that helped them move along into the championship series. So I guess we'll move on to your overall prospect thoughts here. So on our top 30, we have Noah Schultz at number 1 now. You have thoughts on Noah Schultz?
Yeah, I mean, Noah is a physical. There's like these dudes when you go to. Have you guys ever been to Camelback Ranch for like the camps and stuff?
I have not.
Oh, Ian, come on, man. What's the problem? Get out. Come on, come on down. Let's do it, because you get to. It's really interesting access because they all walk down this like long ramp that goes under a tunnel, and they all just kind of appear to you. It's a really funny thing. Nobody stands out like Noah Schultz. Like Noah's there. Like that. And he's a physical presence, but it's the same thing on the mound. I mean, that fastball, really the way the delivery comes in, that he's honed in, that fastball, I think is extra deceptive. It is one of the nastiest sliders out there in the minor leagues right now. And those two things alone, when you can command them, can get you to being a frontline pitcher. And then on top of it, with that plus control, when you've got that changeup, that's the workings of it. And I think, all he has done has played out so far. I mean, this past year it was, 23 games, a 2.24 ERA, big strikeouts. He has 30 career walks. I think when you're talking about the top pitching prospects in baseball, Noah Schultz is in the top 3 conversation. I think on my ranks, I want to say I have him as the 3rd overall. He might be the 2nd, to be honest with you. So Noah Schultz is at the top. But since we're leading to it, I got to tell you, I was not as high on Hagen Smith as other people. And I remember I did a show. I still love Chase Burns. Chase Burns is still my top from the class. And I got to see him pitch. It was messy, but he's got this just big, powerful fastball. But a friend of mine, Jeff Ponce from Baseball America, I did a show, and I'm talking about him, and he texts me, and he's like, you got to watch more of Hagen Smith. He's like, Hagen Smith is crazy more deceptive than you think. Because I had this thing that was sticking with me, is Hagen had this insane strikeout percentage, whiff percentage of in-zone stuff. And I don't really like that. Like, I don't want you to get all your stuff off of in-zone whiffs, because what that tells me is that's a bunch of college guys that just can't catch up. That's not going to work at the major league level. So that kind of stuck out to me. 2-pitch arsenal mostly. Then he's out here, and I happen to be at Camelback Ranch when he's throwing. And I saw that. And the fastball command in the zone was crazy. And that is on my Twitter. You guys can find. Just go under, if you can do the search, you can do Hagen Smith. The fastball, the deceptiveness of his delivery with the fastball, it was literally unhittable. Through 2 or 3 innings, I think 2 people made contact on it. But the slider, as disgusting. But he also did throw in a changeup or 2. And that's something that had been talked about. And after he went and he talked with, it was one of the coaches after, and I briefly got to talk with him about it. And I confirmed, I'm like, did we see some of those changeups? And he's like, yep. He's like, I did throw, and he's starting to throw that. A 3-pitch, so that was my problem. A 2-pitch pitcher that lives inside the zone, maybe not my favorite thing on the planet. But physically seeing him, it was one of the best pitching performances, not even just on what the guys didn't do, but what he executed. And he was 100% efficient with the fastball and the slider. And to know that there's another pitch in the making, I legit think the White Sox do now have 2 of the top, at minimum, 10 pitchers in the minor leagues, if not 2 of the top 8 pitchers in minor leagues. And where I thought there might have been a bigger gap between Chase Burns and Hagen Smith, I now do not believe that, because Hagen look dramatically better than Chase Burns as well. But I also think his poise is something that we should give consideration to. And you know what, there's like what Garrett Crochet did. There was always relief vibes with him, and he has looked so dominant. There's something in that same space of Hagen Smith. So Hagen and Noah Schultz is like an amazing 1-2 punch. Where if you've got, well, really three, if you have Garrett Crochet, you can build around those three, and they're all close. And then if you can just have something else work out, Nostrini, Kai Bush, Iriarty, Palady, I mean, they've set them, this is what you have to do. This is how organizations succeed. Like, they're not all going to work. But if you get one of those four become a number 4, no one's crying about having a great 4-man rotation like that. So that's what's exciting to me about the White Sox is the Schultz-Hagen-Smith 1-2 punch.
And I think we feel pretty good just about the pitching development. They've had a really tough time developing hitters. They added Brian Bannister last year, and it seems to like have really kind of changed things to the point where, like, in the draft, like me and Ian did a bunch of shows. We were convinced they were taking a bat because everybody was convinced they were taking a bat.
I was told they were taking a bat.
Yeah, and then they took Hagen, and we're like, okay, because we're both fine with it because just, like, I think he'll be awesome here, right? Whereas if they took one of the bats, I could see them not, like, reaching their ceiling just because they haven't been able to develop hitters. So as a fan, I was like, they need hitters, but, like, I totally understand it if they think he's, like, a top of the rotation.
I mean, how would you guys have felt if they ended up taking Cags? You know, I mean, that was a rumor that was kind of floating around that, like, you know, they might have been in on Caglione.
Right, and we would have probably had to talk ourselves into it. I just the history of first baseman that high, like, scares the hell out of me.
Sure.
Like,
it does me.
You know, I was like,
and watching him in the AFL kind of scares me too.
You know, like, I get it. It's like not that many strikeouts, but it's super high chase and, like, yeah.
You guys already have that.
Yeah.
And you guys already have that in Wolkow and Montgomery. Like, I think that would have kind of been a mistake. Like, that's what you want to start seeing. You want to see a balance of organizational talent. You don't want everybody to be the same type of player, you know. And if you are going to try to build off of guys like, let's say Colson Montgomery and George Wolkow are like the core of what you're going to do for hitting. Well, a good approach moving with those players would be taking high contact on base players to kind of supplement that. Unfortunately, a lot of the hitting, and that's where I do think the organization has struggled, or at least if you're looking at their minor league system, where it's like, Brian Ramos has not worked out, and there were some fun things there. Jacob Gonzalez is just kind of trending in the wrong direction. He's not a contact hitter, and there's just a bunch of that. You know, Caro's cool, and he's fun, and, you know, he's physically changing his body and stuff, but, like, he is here to be more of it's more for his control for the starting pitchers than it is for the offensive side. So it's like, where are you going to get your offensive output from? You guys got a lot of interesting projects, but there's not a lot of things to, you know, put your hat on except Montgomery and Wolkow. So that would be the future of where I would want that team to go, is get some high floor prospects to build around to get up to the majors soon.
So
yeah, go ahead.
Nope. And then I guess, you know, not even anybody that you've seen recently, just anybody else in the system that you're a fan of that maybe we haven't talked. I know it's super pitching heavy. We have the same concerns with the bats. I feel like there's a scenario where they're obviously going to lose 100 again next year, but Smith and Schultz could debut with all these other guys, and you're going to be thinking about buying bats potentially, like, you know, in 26 and 27, because you're just not going to have them.
I hope they do. Yeah, I mean, if I like Abraham Nunez as a player that was out here in Complex and Bridge. I thought he was pretty fun. They put him out in the outfield. Great personality. He can run. His hit tools. Now, he's a pretty skinny dude too, so I think that's going to take some time. So I'd point out someone as far as he would be, is like, maybe that's not on a lot of radars. And I'll tell you, the player I'm rooting for more than anybody is Sam Zavala. Like I mentioned him before. There's not one player I'm rooting for more on your team than Zavala, because I really do think he is wildly talented. I remember being on the Padres side the day he got this arm sleeve tattoo, and he was so proud of it. And we asked him about it. And he was just showing us the whole thing. And I saw him in Bridge League, and he had just cut his hair. He shaved the whole thing off. And I asked him, I said, what happened to the locks? And he's like, it was getting in my face. He's like, every time I was running, it was getting in my face. I needed to change it up. Like, personality is great, but also really talented player. I mean, he hit 272 2 years ago. I mean, unfortunately, his average has gone down 4 straight years, but this was a higher batting average player that showed extra base pop and was stealing bases. I think health has been an issue. Consistency has been an issue. I really hope he can kind of hone in this offseason. I think he's spending time, here with the White. I know he was during instructs and everything. I hope it continues and he stays here and he gets kind of leveled out, because I think that's a guy that can move back up your organization. And he's probably he's my favorite that's not on a lot of radars. And everybody's like, well, I guess we screwed that up. Like, that would be like the top dude.
I kind of like that he's an athlete and he walks. We don't have many guys that walk, so
yeah, great defense. Great defense as well. And I just saw today there's actually I saw he's making some changes to his swing, and he's getting a little bit more coil going in his swing, and it looks, at least it looks interesting. I don't know whether it'll work or not. We'll see. But it's nice to see him continuing to work and putting in the effort to try and get this stuff going. So this is about a wrap, James, you think? Okay. Well, we don't want to eat up your entire night here, Welsh. We appreciate your time so much. So do you want to plug your work again here on your way out?
Yeah, if anybody wants, my Twitter's probably the best place to just follow, because I do have a lot of stuff going on. I always have. Last year I was CBS and Athletic and Fantasy Pros, and I do tons of Fantasy Pros stuff, and then I've got my own thing. So follow me on Twitter. But if you really care about the prospect side, Prospect One, I literally 45 minutes ago, before we started this, I posted my Week 1 recap of the AFL, telling a few stories and stuff like that. But Prospect One is the podcast that people here would probably care about. So go subscribe to that, and then, like I said, just follow me on Twitter, and that'll get you there if you want to follow along with anything that I got going on.
All right. Well, we appreciate it so much. Thank you for time, and we'll catch up with you, hopefully sometime maybe next AFL, maybe before, when the spring comes up. I don't know.
Yeah, just hit me up, guys. I'm always here. Appreciate it.
All right, great. All right, thanks.